Okay, now you gotta project when you're trying to be picked up on the video or use the microphones. And if you're making mumbling remarks about other people, just do it real quietly because it'll get picked up.
Thank you. You got it.
Okay, so just at the top, these are our only microphones, so if you want to get picked up on the microphone, please come up and you can use it and you can go whichever way. The camera's here, so you know, they won't see you, or you can turn around and point to the camera. But we are recording right now, as I just mentioned. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to, I think, our first listening session in this area. We have been in Fresno for a quarterly meeting, and we've been in Yosemite also for a listening session, and are just so pleased to be here with you all here today at Tule River. My name is Christina Snider. I'm a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians. Sorry, I'll go back. I just got married last weekend. My name is Christina Snider-Ashtari, and I'm a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians and the Tribal Affairs Secretary for Governor Gavin Newsom. A huge thank you again to Tule River for hosting us here. I know all the work that's gone into this, and we've got some great food for you. If you eat enough, maybe this will be very short and everyone will fall asleep very quickly. But again, feel free to get up as you need to get refreshments. Feel free to step out as you need to use the restrooms and just get some air. A few housekeeping items before we get into today's agenda. Today's agenda, we have our welcome and we had our traditional opening. We'll then go into introductions of everyone here. We typically go around the room, and if you have anything you'd like to share at that time, you can share something now, or you can also just tell us who you are, where you come from, what your expectations are, or if you don't have expectations because you don't know what we're doing here, you can just say that too. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the council is, where we're at in the process, what you can expect from the process, and then we'll open it up for tribal testimony and general testimony. Again, each of these listening sessions is different. We're mostly here to answer your questions, but also mostly to listen to your concerns, your thoughts, what you'd like to see change in the state of California, what you'd like to see for the betterment of California Native people. And then after community discussion, we'll have reflection and follow-up, and then we'll have a traditional closing followed by lunch at 1. If we end before then, feel free to visit with each other, but typically we'll go kind of the entire time. We'll have some time for break too in the middle, just so that people can go outside, stretch their legs. So we are again recording this meeting, and we'll be posting it on the Office of Tribal Affairs YouTube channel. If there's any point in time where you'd like us to stop recording, please let us know. But again, this is not a formal consultation. This is a listening session that's open to the community in order to get your feedback, your thoughts, and anything that you'd like us to know about the process and what you'd like to see from the process. In addition to this, we do have consultation available. So if your tribe would like to engage in one-on-one consultation, we do that kind of in the method and mode that's most comfortable for the tribe. So consultation is not with the full council, it's with our office. If one of us is conflicted out, or you'd like one of us to be outside of the room because there's just kind of a weird dynamic, we're happy to allow for that too. But we know that sometimes there's council members that people don't want their tribal information getting to the council members, or the things that they're thinking about in terms of dynamics. And we just want to make sure that we're being respectful of the way that you want to share your information and how you want to share it. So typically what happens with those consultations is we will kind of have an informal conversation at first. We've done this via Zoom sometimes, and just kind of talk about the process and what you might want to, what your concerns are as a tribe, what you might want to be doing, what your timelines are, and what you might need to be able to engage in the process. And then once you're comfortable, we can actually do a recorded consultation session, or you can submit a written testimony for the record on behalf of the tribe. Let's see. Most of the consultation, if it's not on the record, is that data is aggregated, which means that we take away all identifying information and we say, here's what we're hearing from this, from certain tribes, and we add it to the, kind of what we're hearing to inform the process. So the recording will be posted on our website and also on the California Truth and Healing Council updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. We do have ongoing virtual listening sessions as well, so we'll keep you apprised of those. And then I'd now like to remind everyone that in joining us here today, you agreed to adhere to the Council's principles for respectful engagement, which I'll summarize for you very briefly, and there's a copy up here at the front as well. Refusal to adhere to the principles which apply to all participants, including governing council members, staff, and community members, whether present or not, may result in your removal from today's convening. If you feel that any time that you need to step out or you feel that you may be in need of assistance, please find one of our team and we can help you get some air. We also have Ron Good here, who has come as a healer. So if you'd like to step out and kind of process a few things with him, please feel free to go say hi and he can help you with that. So in order to create a space where participants feel welcome, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we'll uphold the following principles in all of our convenings. And we ask that all participants work toward sharing their stewardship. If you're a participant in a convening with the council, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. So we welcome critical thoughts, ideas, but also want to make sure that they're not personal attacks, because we want people to be able to be comfortable in these spaces and want to come back and engage in these conversations. And then finally, I'd like to remind attendees that as we work through today's discussions, this process is necessarily open to all Californians, but we ask that those here as allies ensure that they please respect the space and voice of California Native participants, particularly elders in this process. For any members of the press in attendance or watching this via recording, we ask that you engage with this process with deference to the Native experience, and that you commit to obtaining consent and final review from the Native peoples that you hear from today. We don't want this to be an extractive process, and we hope that you'll assist us in creating a safe space that is open, transparent, and welcome to all. So with that, we're going to do a round of introductions. And again, this can be just a short intro if you want, or it can be an introduction and some sharing whatever is on your heart or any thoughts you had in driving in here. And I'm going to, I think, start with Loretta. And also feel free to either just shout, or you can come up here, come to the mic, and introduce yourselves as makes sense.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda. I am a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians and currently serve as Deputy Tribal Affairs Secretary and Special Counsel for the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here bright and early, and thank you for your patience while we were kind of getting everything set up. And again, thank you to Ron Good for being that healing component of this meeting. We recognize that these meetings can be pretty heavy, and the topics can be triggering, and so we just want to make it so that we're not re-traumatizing and then sending everyone home. And so we have this emotional support here in case anyone wants to step outside, or if we all need to kind of collectively stop and take a few breaths while getting into this conversation. And thank you to the Tule River Tribe for hosting us. This is a gorgeous facility. You might notice over here that I am taking some photos. I'll generally take a lot of photos during the introductions while people are speaking. If you are not comfortable with that or do not want me to use your photograph on our social media or anything like that, please let me know, and we can make that happen. So thank you.
I think let's start over here maybe.
Good morning again. Welcome. My name is Miranda. I am the chairman of the Tule River Tribal Council. Again, welcome to the Tule River Indian Reservation. And I also serve as a council member on the Truth and Healing Council for the Eastern.
Good morning, my name is Albert Quintero. I'm an active member of this community. I serve as the IT department and anything council needs or anyone there. Tim is it.
Be first. Hi, I'm Tammy Byers, tribal member elder. Lived here all my life since I was born in my mom's old house, actually, which is a privilege for me. Just here to learn and find out what you guys have to offer. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Brenda Allison. I'm a tribal elder. Happy to be here today.
Good morning, my name is Robin Burrow. I'm a tribal member from the Tule River Tribe. I'm on the Elders Council here on the Tule River Reservation, and I've also lived here all my life. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to interact with you guys.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Betsy Pate. I'm a tribal member, elder, and I sit on our Elders Council. I'm the chairperson. I lived about 20 years off the reservation, and did live in Clovis, where I met Ron. So it's good to see everybody here. Thank you.
Morning, Neil. Manahu, and first of all, thank you for inviting us. And I'm Ron Good. I'm the tribal chairman of the Northward Mono Tribe, up a few counties. But really, I want to say it's a really nice crowd to see all of you, come out. And I'm sure you got a lot of good things to share. So it'll be a good day today, I myself hope if there's an opportunity would like to speak a little bit on land acquisition and agency involvement, and also as a tribe we do cultural burning and meadow restoration. But if we go back in history, there's still a lot of animosity about how that's happening. And so one of the things we are doing is going around the state trying to get tribes to, how can we help them put fire back on the land? How can we help them to take care of their landscapes? And to be comfortable with it, and how to deal with the agencies, whether it's federal or state. And it's not an easy chore. So maybe we can discuss that more. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charmaine McDormand. I'm a tribal member of the Tule River Tribe and also serve as general counsel of the tribe.
Good morning, my name is Irma Hunter, tribal member. This is the second one I've been to. My first one was in February, and the Truth and Healing at CTHC. I thought that was really interesting, so I'm here today, what kind of concerns we have as a tribe, people that we've been into. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Jim Hunter. I'm a Tule River tribal member and elder. I'm recently retired from Indian gaming, and trying to just kind of looking around, coming to the community meetings and events like this. And I talked to Irma last night because it's the first time I heard about it. So I just kind of interested to see what you guys are all about. Okay, I don't have any questions or concerns yet. I'm glad to be here.
Good morning, I'm Judy Ramirez. I'm with Germany from Isaiah. So happy to be here. Nice to see you.
My name is Cindy Tavares. I'm a Fort Wayne elder. Also, my grandmother Beatrice Wilcox was from here. And Grandpa Alex was from there in Denmark. So glad to be
Charlie Franco, not the Indian of Wachumni. I'm the current chairperson of the Wachumni tribe in Visalia. So I'm really happy to be here. I come here to these Truth and Healing Council meetings to learn about other tribes and what they're going through, and to share what we're doing down in Visalia, and maybe we can help each other, especially the non-federally recognized tribes, because we don't get a lot of the other kind of assistance, and we're kind of on our own. But I can talk more about that later, but it's good to see all of you here today. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susan Weiss. I'm also with Wachumni Elder for Visalia. I've been to a few of the Truth and Healing meetings, and I find them very informative, meeting a lot of different people up and down the state, and reconnecting with different people up and down the state, because I've met a lot of people in the state. Today I have with me my 2 granddaughters. I want to expose them to the stuff that us elders and older people are involved in, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Cadet Co-Washington Lillian Weiss. Hello, my name is Lillian Weiss, and I'm very excited to be here. I've been in contact with you guys a bit, so I'm going to talk to you later today. And I'm just excited to learn.
We're going to try to make her be a fellow for us.
Hello, my name is Marisol Fierro. I'm a member of the Wachumni tribe, and I'm just glad to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to be here with my family and my elders as well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Judith Weiss. My mother, Susan, and my 2 beautiful nieces, as well as my aunties, part of the Wachumni tribe. It is an honor to be here. I like to listen to what everybody has to say, and just try to help in any way that I can. So, thank you.
This is Jim. Hello, my name is Fred Brown. Good morning, everybody, and hope we have a good day.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason McCannell. I work at California State Parks as Research and Development Program Consultant to the Director. I've been trying to get down here all year long. I planned 2 trips to Tule River this year, and one was canceled. Well, both were canceled because of terrible things, one flooding, one's a funeral, so I'm just really glad to have finally made it here. I'm here because, ultimately I'm here because of Cynthia Gomez, a member of this tribe. I befriended her when I was working in the governor's office, and from the time that I got to know Cynthia, I've just really pretty much worked on this stuff one way or the other ever since. And I feel like this isn't the first time I've been here, because I feel like I grew up on her stories about living on the reservation, the old days, and just the closeness of spirits in this place. I can feel it too now that I'm here. So one of the main projects I work on is called the Digital Atlas of California Native Americans. I was meaning to come down here actually earlier to consult on maybe making a page for the tribe here. That's available to everybody of every tribe, recognized and unrecognized. I can help you out, put whatever you want to put on your Atlas page. And you can come talk to me about that on breaks. I could go on and on. The other thing that I would like to inform everyone here about is that I serve on the Advisory Committee on Reconciliation and Place Names of the Department of the Interior. We just had our first in-person meeting in Grand Canyon last week. It seems like a long time ago, long trip. Anyway, so if you have place names issues, if you have derogatory names that you know of that you want taken off the map, you can also come to me and talk to me about that because I have that position too. Okay, I'll stop talking now. I'm just really, really glad to be here. I also, just one more thing. I know there's a lot of FKBMI here. They're actually the latest Atlas page that I put out. I was really happy working with them. I'm really happy to see them here today. So thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. Hey, you. Let's send away some yet. My name is Julian Behill. I am our current Sergeant at Arms for the Shalom Indian Council of Bakersfield. I'm also the current president for the Native Star Foundation. And I come today just wanting to hear, listen, and if there's anything I can share with my experiences throughout Indian country within our valley. I come in a good way. I come representing not only my people, but a lot of the people that I come in contact with to try to help increase the knowledge and the wisdom that we gain from coming to these things. So, thank you.
Hilly, my name is Janet Bill. I'm the Tribal Council Chairperson for the Binky Rancheria of the Chukchansi Indians. And on behalf of our nation, thank you so much for Tule River for hosting this session today. And of course to Secretary Snider and Deputy Secretary Miranda for all the work that you're doing to assist our nations. I look forward to all the discussion here today. Thank you.
Good morning, this is here. The name my grandfather and my grandmother gave me. From Tule River, I'm an elder, also a member of the tribal council. But today, I'm just here as a person to listen. This is my first listening session. And I just want to take something home with me that I can think about all day long in a good way.
I am Diane Vera, Burton's wife. Always interested in what goes on here at Tule River. Coming here for many years. Been living here, my husband, the last 20 years, I guess. And I love it here. And I'm always interested in these issues. Basically, thank you.
My name is Teresa Woodrow. I'm here to support my husband Ken. Keep thinking for
Ken Woodrow, Brooks Indian Tribal Chair from the village of Tucson, in Badger area, going to Tish. I don't mean village there. I'm here to see what's going on since it's just chance. Thank you.
Good morning again. Once again, Heather Turan, and I'm from Tule River and also an elder, and I'm here also. I'm picking my chairman's brains to see what this was about, but with the introduction, it looks like it could get deep. So anyway, and I'm glad to be here, and especially with all, I always tell my chairman, he'd take me to Sacramento, and I'd tell him, get me out of here, my blood pressure's high, you know, but the main thing I always love is going places where all our people, tribes are at. That's the most important. That's a feeling that makes me happy inside. And when one of the, Darlene, when they spoke of the non-recognized tribes, that really hits me because, you know, we're all as one, and yet they're not allowed to have anything that the recognized tribes has, and that's really sad. I went to one of the meetings way up north long ago, and I seen all these non-recognizable tribes in there, and it got to me, and it was like, wow. You know, but anyway, welcome everybody, and I have seen everybody. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Helen Tran. I was invited by Heather Kemp. I'm from the Snider-Ashtari band in San Pasqual Reservation in San Diego. I'm just here to listen.
You can see him. My name is Snider-Ashtari. I'm a member of the Tule River Tribe. I'm also a human resource clerk for the Tule River Tribe as well. And I was invited by my aunt, Heather Tran, and I'm here, and I'm able to join and listen.
Good morning, everyone. Lucia Alfaro is the Ferdinand and Tommy Battle Mission Indians. This is my first listening session, so I'm really glad to be here in your presence and just kind of see what it's all about. And also, I'm a tribal secretary.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Alvarez. I'm also from the Ferdinand and Tommy Battle Mission Indians. I serve as a senator. I'm here to listen.
Good morning, my name is Joseph Bodo. I also am a member of the Ferdinand and Mission Indians. I sit on the standings, and I can thank you for hosting us here at Tule River, and I'm looking forward just to seeing what's happening here today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Ortega. I'm also with the Topping Tribe. I'm one of the senators of the tribe. My grandmother is from Weldon. She's Yoki, Paiute, so I know I have family here. So Miranda, Stone, Tacoma, and there's another one in there. We can talk about it. Anyway, I'm just excited to be here. All our tribal members, and me, philosophy family too. I got family all over this, like you said, we all do. So thank you. I'm here to listen and gather information.
How you doing, everybody? My name is George Salazar. I'm also a Ferdinand and Band of Mission Indians. I'm a tribal senator as well, and it's my first time, so I'm here to listen and pay as much as I can. Thank you very much, and thank you for having us.
My name is Loretta. I am also the talking I am here to listen and learn. This is my first time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rudy Ortega Jr. I'm the child president of the Fraternity of Topic Band Missionaries. This is my son, so he's learning, and he said he's going to take over my job, so he's out here watching everything. He's only 15 years old, so he's catching up. But thank you to the River for the host and Cynthia and everyone on the staff for having it here. I came here for the food and the stories. No, I'm here to share as well, so thank you so much. I think these are really great. It's probably the third one that I attended.
Sorry, folks, I forgot to mention that there's a guest Wi-Fi. We have no cellular coverage in this area, and if you're needing kids, elders that might need to contact you, you go to the guest Wi-Fi, and that way you'll be able to get and receive messages and message out. So sorry about that. Yeah.
And we have one more person who just entered. Would you like to introduce yourself? Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Linda Vegas. I'm from Bakersfield, California. And I have one of the in the area of Children's. And I'm here today to talk about Kern River.
Okay, thank you all. So, again, please speak up if you're gonna stay out there. I think it's perfectly acceptable. Typically we'll have a circle or like a table, and so it's a bit easier for us all to hear each other, but we are recording. We also have a voice recorder right here, so we're hoping to capture all of it, but don't wanna miss anything really good that you'd like to share today. For the youth in the room, I know that there's also right now the California Indian College in Woodland. What's that one called? Well, no, what's the college called?
This is California Tribal College.
Yeah, the California Tribal College is right now advertising a youth governance program for youth that want to be doing governance in tribal nations, and so it might be something you might be interested in. And we also have a youth subcommittee in case you might be interested in doing something similar with your peers as the Truth and Healing Council. But that segues into what is the Truth and Healing Council. Many of you, I'm very proud of your courage coming here today not knowing exactly what this was because it's kind of a lot of things, and we'll go into that now. Loretta, if I miss anything, please feel free to jump in, and then I'll hand it off to you for anything that's coming up. But the Truth and Healing Council is a council that was created under executive order almost exactly 4 years ago. So on June 18th, 2019, Governor Newsom issued an apology, executive order. He also apologized in person to several tribal leaders in Sacramento. The executive order apologized for the atrocities that the state was responsible for and the citizens of California were responsible for at the creation of the state. In addition, it opened up the opportunity for Native people to tell the state what it should be sorry for. Instead of saying, hey, we're sorry for all this stuff, you're welcome, let's move on. It was saying, hey, these are the things that we know about because it's in our record, but we know that our record is one-sided, it's from our perspective, and we need to understand from your perspective what you think we should be sorry for and what we should be doing to try to make amends for that. So what the Truth and Healing Council created was a table for Native people from California to have these discussions about what are the harms that happened at the beginning of the state, whether it was forced relocation, whether it was, paying people for the scalps of Native people throughout the state, whether it was removing children, whether it was killing parents and then indenturing children because that was in statutes, whether it was something as simple as you couldn't speak your language or you couldn't practice your religion or you couldn't go to the places where you used to practice that religion, whether it was all of the non-native people are taking all the fish, or all of the cattle are getting rid of all of the ancestral deer and things that you're used to and accustomed to eating. All of those things are the things that this process is hoping to hear about from your perspective, what was most harmful to your community? And then also to create a fuller picture of that history from the perspective of Native people, but also to propose things that the state can do to start making up for that, things that private citizens can do to start making up for that. So whether it's, as Ron mentioned earlier, restoring fire to the land, whether it's land back, whether it's creating more programs for healthy and nutritious foods for Native peoples, whether it's creating more pathways to education, or changing the education system to include more culturally valuable things within curriculum, like language, like access to Native spaces, things like that. So really that's what this process is, and I know that's kind of very high level, but it's really, from the Native perspective, what were the harms felt at the creation of the state, that the state and its citizens are responsible for? Whether it's, all of the sacred sites are, degraded because of mining activity or gold or whatever. And also, what are the things that the state and the private citizens can start doing to make up for that? We think that the problems that are here in California are problems that can't be solved by any one actor alone. The state and the federal government were complicit with private actors in what happened here. So solutions, while we can't compel the federal government to do something, we can point out that there's an issue there. Whether it's PL 280 doesn't look right and it's not working here. And while we can't compel private industry and the private sector to do similarly, things to do right, we can tell them what they can do to start doing better. So when we start seeing, you see tech, Google wanting to do more things that are Native friendly, how can they do that right? What is the thing that you want? Is it a land acknowledgement? Maybe not. Is it a land acknowledgement plus hire a bunch of people at executive levels and help us document our languages and help us map our Native spaces in our languages? Maybe, but that's what we're trying to hear from you all through this process. The process will result in a report in 2025, which will be a documented report, but also a living report. We have a documentarian that has been coming to our meetings and filming some of the processes. So those are our quarterly meetings that I'll tell you about in a moment. So in addition to the written document, which will be more of a policy document for advocating for changes or for us to look at our budget and allocate more funding or programs, there will be both that with this documentary project that'll also incorporate our elders oral history project, which we'll talk about a little bit too. Am I making sense still? Okay. Sometimes I just ramble and then I'm not sure if I'm actually connecting. That's the big picture. How the council is doing its work is it has quarterly meetings, which are 2-day meetings, which take place regionally. So we had one at Chipchansey and Cal State Fresno back in February, one each day, and each quarterly meeting is meant to highlight kind of a general area, provide opportunities for testimony, and it's kind of a bigger process than this, where we'll hear from community, but we'll also hear from people who are doing things that might be good suggestions to implement in community. Native conservancies, things like that. We asked tribes from the local regions what they'd like to hear about. So in some regions they want to talk about ICWA. In some regions they want to talk about land. In some regions they want to talk about just general invisibility. And in some regions we go specifically because there's a boarding school there. So we've gone to Sherman Indian School, we've gone to Stewart Indian School in Carson City, and we are planning on also going to Chimala and, is that it?
Fort Bidwell.
And Fort Bidwell as well. And then there's one that was at puts on too, that's now no longer in use. So we're trying to get to all of the places where California Indians have been, have experienced these things, and really kind of create that bigger picture story of California Indianness. It's not all focused on the bad stuff. It's also trying to capture what are the things that, resilience, the jokes that we tell, the ways that we survive and the connections that we make. So it's trying to capture that full picture of being a California Indian, what that looks like, and present kind of also a real public relations pitch to California, because most people don't even know that we exist still. So if they don't know we exist, you can't get funding for programs for the problems that you're trying to solve. You can't even find a solution because nobody even knows that there's a problem. Quarterly meetings, we have these types of listening sessions. We are also able to come out and do specific hearings. So if there was a specific instance that happened that you'd like to capture, or a specific person that you'd like to talk about, we can come out and talk about that. One of the things that we're probably going to do is Bloody Island up in Lake County, the Bloody Island Massacre, but there's a few of those throughout the state, also focus on certain people, like Captain Jack and Troy Perina. So, California is incredibly complicated. That's why we're trying to get everywhere we can and understand kind of the whole picture of what happened here, including what was inherited from the Mexican and Spanish legacies and that was reinforced. So did that explain the process? Okay, so the governing council kind of directs how things go. The council itself is made up of all California Indians, and so we welcome all voices in this process, and we are looking through different lenses to make sure that all of the proposed solutions are equitable. What does that mean? There is a really great graphic that you can Google if you're on the internet here, or once you find internet elsewhere, where there's a fence where people are trying to look over the fence to watch a baseball game. The person who's tallest doesn't need any help, they can see okay. But then other people are shorter, they need to stack some boxes, and that's how they see over the fence and have the same view. Some people might need to be lifted up because they're that short and they can't see over the fence. And that's what we talk about when we talk about equity, is that not everybody starts at the same position. So some people don't even know the baseball game is happening, and you really need to help them to see the baseball game, maybe even explain what the baseball game is so that they can enjoy it as much as the person who's watching it just over the fence. Here, when we talk about equity, we talk about, federal recognition confers some rights and responsibilities, but also is not as much as it needs to be. Federally recognized tribes are also struggling. And so what do federally recognized tribes and members of federally recognized tribes need to be made whole based on the history that happened here? Non-federally recognized tribal members also then are in another space where they may need more boxes to stand on because they're not seeing the same view and they don't have the same kind of baseline that they're standing on in the same foundation. And then folks that aren't members of either and maybe have allotments or maybe have been disenrolled or maybe just lack status, they may need another kind of way to engage in the way where everybody is getting kind of that same view and feels like the same whole person in this process. So really the idea is that all Native people feel that they are being seen and that the proposed solutions create kind of an equal wholeness based on where you're starting from. Did that make sense?
So we have the image now.
Okay. And we're going to open up to all of you so then you can be like, I don't get that, like what boxes? And then we can go through that. But so part of this is each person has a different experience. My cousin is a different person from me, my brother's a different person from me, and so we all have different experiences as California Indians based on the fact that all of our ancestors survived differently. All of us look different and survive differently within the society that we're in. And so each Native person's voice is super critical in this process because it's gonna be different for everybody. One person may view wholeness as being able to express themselves more traditionally on a daily basis. Another person may say that, being made whole means that I want to be at the highest levels of executive office in this state and not feel like I have barriers. Others may say, I want to be able to have free education my whole life because that's what I feel like I need. And so it'll be different for everyone. We also, the way that we look at those lenses is we have subcommittees, and those subcommittees look at different issues. And so we have, the status and identity subcommittee, we have the youth council subcommittee, we have an elder subcommittee, and all of those, we got a bunch of self-nominations, a bunch of nominations. Those will be, we'll tell you in the next week or so that you are on those subcommittees. And the first in-person subcommittee meetings will be at our July meeting coming up next month. So we'll give you all that information. We also, to do the work, will have specific task forces that look at the issue areas that you all want us to look at. And so whether it's, public safety, where you're looking at PL 280 and court systems, or whether it's land and natural spaces, whether it's cultural resources, those will look at specific issues, with the idea that those will basically be the breakdown of chapters, with the subcommittees being the lens of each chapter. So let's say it's sacred spaces. We have a lens for the youth, how do they feel about this? We have a lens for elders, how do they feel about this? We have a lens for people who lack status, who are not able to even kind of enter these spaces because they don't have, their, federal ID. I think I'm good on rambling. I'm going to turn it over to Loretta for next steps and the next meetings, and then we'll open it up for thoughts. We'd like to hear what you would like to see from this council, what you're thinking about, what you're concerned about, and I will probably stop talking for the rest of the meeting.
And so I think one thing that helps me understand kind of the process of what we're envisioning for the task forces and subcommittees is kind of thinking, if you think of like a big book, that would be the report. And then each chapter would be the task force. So like a task force on, like natural resources, let's just say. And so that would be one chapter or one volume of this big book. And then within that would be sub-chapters of like elders. So how do elders view this issue area? So like conceptually, that helps me kind of figure out what our plan is moving forward as far as like process and how we kind of envision this coming to fruition in a report. And so, because I know it's really abstract to think like, there's these task forces, there's these subcommittees, so that kind of helps me think of it. And so hopefully that helps you all as well. As far as the subcommittees, one of the flyers up here is for our quarterly meeting, which is in July. It is July 20th will be the in-person subcommittee meeting on the North Coast. It'll be at Sume Village in Trinidad. And so that'll be the first in-person convening of these subcommittees. We also do plan to have monthly meetings virtually, where we will have a monthly meeting dedicated to 2 of the subcommittees and kind of have it on a rolling basis. And we have a question.
Are these meetings open?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yeah, all convenings of the council are open to the general public, so they're open to everyone, but we do prioritize California Native voices in that space. And so, but we are completely open to everybody. So
the only things that are closed are tribal consultations, just because of the nature of tribal consultation.
Yeah, but everyone's welcome at all of the the meetings, the listening sessions. It's a public process with that prioritization for California Native people's voices. And so that meeting is July 20th in Sume Village in Trinidad. That's the in-person subcommittee meetings where we're kind of getting everyone together and walking through that process. Following that day, we will be having our first day of the quarterly meeting, which will be at Cal Poly Humboldt, the Native American Forum on July 21st. And then July 22nd, we will be in Klamath at the Redwood RV Park, hosted by the Yurok tribe. So that's July 22nd. And those flyers are up at the front of the room. There's also, on that flyer, a little section for the subcommittee meeting with the QR code. So we are taking applications from folks on a rolling basis. We have our initial list of everyone that submitted everything, and again, we'll be getting back to everyone within a week or so with more details. But if you are interested in a particular subcommittee, you want to sign up, there's a little QR code that links to our Google form on that flyer. In terms of future events as well, we have another listening session, which is just like this convening, on June 30th at Sacramento State University. And there is a flyer up in the front of the room as well about that. For the month of August, we are hoping to have a few listening sessions in the Eastern Sierra region. Again, at the front of the room, there's a flyer that has the state of California with kind of little marks everywhere of where we have gone this year or are planning to go this year. As Christina mentioned, we are getting out as much as we can to all the different regions of the state, realizing that California is complex. We have very different tribes in different regions of the state, and wanting to be sure to capture everyone's insights for this process. And I think that's it for the upcoming convenings. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to Christina.
Great, and then I just wanted to explain kind of in real life, what does this look like? Because a lot of what that we're doing here, a lot of you have done many times before. And maybe something came out of it, maybe something didn't come out of it. Part of what we're doing here is also looking at those efforts and seeing what did change. For example, there was the congressional report on the status of Indians that came out in 1997, so pre-gaming. So what did change? What's better? What's worse? What didn't change? And what made that effective or not effective? So we're looking at all of the things that happened already at the state, at the federal level. But in addition, as we're hearing from you what your priorities are, we're implementing some of those things in real time to make sure that we can start getting a little bit of an idea of how to catalyze bigger efforts if those are things that you all like. So, for example, the governor put $100 million in the budget for tribal nature-based solutions and 30 by 30, which means conserving 30% of the lands and waters in California by 2030. That would be specifically for California Native American tribes, and that's kind of being rolled out in the next several months. But really, what do you like about that program? What don't you like about the program? Would you like to see more things like that? Would you like to see less of that because it's causing problems? And so what we're doing in real time is trying to try things out that are in the frame of restorative justice and reconciliation and making things right, like the name changes that were inspired by this work. It's translating into real dollars and real programs right now. So again, if there are things that we hear that you want now, that we think are doable now, we may start rolling out little pilots of them in real time. And so it's things like, in the past few years, we amended all of the statutes to allow for cultural burning in a way that had never been done before. And so those things are getting funding, they're starting to roll out. We have tribal advisors on cultural burn at the state now. And so again, just so you're aware, like the programs that are being rolled out in a progressive way are informed by this process as well. And if there's things that you like, please let us know. And that's what this is anticipated to do, is result in basically, a list of recommendations that people can just point to, say, I'm gonna fund that, or I'm gonna do that, and then just do it. Anything else?
Does anyone have any questions for us first? I know we just gave a lot of information.
Yes, you were talking about
Go ahead.
the 1997 survey that was done by the feds, congressional. How far have you followed that? You see the negativity that we as non-service tribes face. I was there at the meetings, 97, and just trying to figure out, you follow some of the information on there? I forgot the name of the report.
It's the ACIP, the Advisory Committee on California Indian Policy, I think. So that report we read. We're aware of what their recommendations are. They're largely focused on federal recommendations, but they do lay out a lot of the history here. And so if that's something you'd like us to incorporate, just tell us which parts you'd like us to incorporate, because really this is a native-driven process, and we're not gonna get ahead of like what all of you are looking for. So if you say, hey, that chapter in its entirety is still good, please use that as our story, because it still hasn't been done. We are happy to incorporate that into the report and say, you know, it's been, you know, what are we going on, 30 years now? I can't do math anymore. Yeah, almost 30 years, where, you know, this was recognized as a problem. Nobody did anything about it. It's actually worse now because we have more inequity now than we did then. You know, so that's kind of the thing, is like, we're not trying to get ahead of what the community wants, but if the community wants us to incorporate some of that stuff, we're happy to do that.
I had a question. Irma Hunter, when you talk about the name change, could you give an update on what was happening in Squaw Valley, or if there's any other areas that a name change is like going on right now?
I think I'm gonna call on the chair here.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still going through the process. I know they're threatening legal suits, the supervisor is, but like I exposed them and said, you know, you had 2 years to respond to this. All of a sudden, you have this committee meeting out here in West Valley, at the library. And basically, you know, they threatened me, you know, the citizens that are threatening me. You know, I didn't want to speak, but I had to when they started, you know, putting us down. You know, the derogatory statement, all the natives love this disdain. But right now, I think it's just a bunch of, it's changed already.
I think they did sue. So I think they filed a lawsuit, but I'll double check that. And from the state's perspective, you know, this was the right thing to do. And so we'll, you know, support the name change however we need to. And you know, to be frank, with a lot of the things we're doing with this council, with the name changes, all of it, we're gonna see a lot of that. We're seeing a large number, and maybe, I don't know if Jason wants to speak on it because he's in the middle of it, but we're seeing a lot of the type of political activity that we've seen, you know, the radical political activity that we've seen in the past 10 years more visibly. Look at all of what's happening here as kind of a sign of like a culture war that they need to be more aggressive about. And so while there are fewer of that type of faction in California, they are very present in certain areas, as you're aware. But Jason, do you want to speak on it at all?
If I'm correct, I'd be open to hearing from people if they wanted that change, but that's my understanding of what QTech is politely called QTech.
There was 2 creeks close together. With that one and the one next to it is called Dos PUTAHs.
I didn't know about that, no.
So that tells me that they're related in writing, and it's intended to be that way, but perhaps it was written in the indigenous people's language with the letter words, that it would be better understood that it's those 2 creeks together have a similar name. And the way I see it is one is related, the ruggier is getting to a woman, and the other one, the creek next door, this is 2 men who try to defend their home. But using those same words.
I'm gonna look into it. Like I said, I don't know anything, but just because I'm a local, and that's what we always heard about the creek, so, and why we don't pronounce it and supposedly the correct pronunciation.
Jason, regarding the derogatory names, places, is there a list of places here in California? And if so, does it also consist of other races, non-tribal, non-native?
Yeah, on the reconciliation, the advisory committee reconciliation and place names, we're specifically charged with derogatory names. So we're not going to say, okay, let's take Andrew Jackson off the map across the country. That is bigger than this committee's purview, but we are looking for words that are equivalent to the S word in terms of the harm that they carry, in terms of whether the word is preventing people from having access access to the outdoors or to spaces that they don't feel comfortable entering because it's named for these words. There is a list. We're developing a list. I've added to the list. I think the most important word to me that I've added to the list is the B word for Native people from California, of which there's many people, many features, I should say, named that word up and down the state. There's other words. There's words for people who can't defend themselves here. There's a word for Roma people from Europe that might be nowhere near where these people live, but it's all over the map. There's a word for Inuit people from Alaska. You find it in Colorado, Utah, and all over the place. That's also a derogatory name. So we're looking at that. The number one biggest derogatory name on the national map is a shortened version of raccoon that's been used for African Americans in the past derogatorily. That's a big lift. There's like 800 things called that. You can look on, I can show you after the meeting, there's a place you can go to look up words on the national map. And it's a database where you just search, say, I want to know if there's anything called this or that. You might use it to search for a figure that you knew committed atrocities against your people. You might use it to search for a word that you believe is derogatory. And if you find something like that, please do raise it with me, because I have a direct line to the next time the secretarial order goes out saying we're going to take that word off the map. That's why the S word happened so fast at the federal level, is because that was a secretarial order from the Secretary of the Interior. She said, get all those names off the map and get them off in a year. These changes typically take a number of years for this one place, so that was an unprecedented thing, but it's not completely, but we're going to use it as a precedent. We're going to do a bunch more like that. So yeah, we're looking at anything that affects anything in that, even some derogatory terms for white people, to be honest.
Well, and I would say in the context of this process too, if there are specific words, specific people that the state of California needs to be looking at and like re-examining, that's how the name change happened at Sume Park, just like Jason mentioned earlier. Even the private sector, how they rename stuff, that's how the Palisades got renamed, is that they didn't have to, they did it through a lot of negotiation with the local tribe, a lot of public pressure. And so a lot of these changes won't just be the federal government saying like, hey, we've decided this is a derogatory thing. It will also be part of this process and the California process where Native people are identifying what are the things that feel hurtful, that make you feel unseen, that make you feel uncared for in this space, and make it harder for you to want to engage in kind of the bigger, California for all, for lack of a better word, TM.
Yeah, I just want to, this derogatory words, in parks and places, also in the schools. In our own city here, we have the Wenatchee Marauders in the high school. And it's like I learned from my elder that there's not even pronounced right, it's Wenatchee. And there's some members here at Tule River, and they call them Marauders. And some of our kids go there. So it's not only in places and parks, but it's also in our schools.
So that's exactly the type of thing that we're trying to hear, is like, what is making the experience of your kids hard? Where they don't even knowing is derogatory, that they're it's being reinforced to them that they're less than, or that their people are less than. So that was a wonderful example. And again, there is a statute in California that is about derogatory school names, but it doesn't always get enforced, it doesn't always get applied, it doesn't always get understood. So that is a great example that we'll put in also our recommendations. And just to tee off that, not just what is wrong, but how could it be made better? So who should these things be named for? Who are the people we want to celebrate? Who do we want our kids to view as our heroes? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention there was another one in Tulare that got changed, that's Tulare Redskins.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Any other questions about the process or about any of the things we're doing currently? And if no questions, then I think that we're happy to open it up to just broader community discussion. If there's anything that you'd like to talk about, like the name changes, or something else that's on your mind, please feel free to stand up or not stand up. Please go ahead.
I would like to propose to talk about signage and naming. We have a Senate Bill 775, I want to say, by Holden, Assemblyman Holden, to rename Highway 215 with the tribal names of each of the tribes that the highway goes through. Maybe perhaps that's something that we could look at up to 5 for each tribal territory that could be acknowledged. And besides that, other roads or highways or canyons that they work geographically with the tribes and dedicating some of the area and signage in that fashion as well. So that's a thought, is looking to expand on that bill.
Thank you. And for those of you who didn't hear, there's a bill in the Assembly that is looking to change the name of one of the freeways down in Los Angeles. They did one already to the Christopher Columbus Highway. The proposal was like, can we do this for all of our highways and freeways throughout the state? One thing that the Digital Atlas is very cool about is it shows ancestral native trails that connected everybody. And so maybe it's, how do we restore that knowledge that a lot of the freeways that connect people now are actually overlying ancestral native trails and have always connected people. In the way where we see mission bells go up the coast, how can we acknowledge that these highways are all actually native ways?
Question is, I know the SNL had it over on 68 in Monterey. I'm looking at our area. How do we find, because they have to follow all the Caltrans requirements. I mean, it's probably $6,000 or $7,000 just to get the sign in the ground. Will there be any funding in this area? I mean, just feels, does it get funding? Because this is $6,000 to $7,000 just to get the stake pole in the ground. I'm thinking about West Valley.
Yeah.
Down the road.
I don't know if I have a response for that, but I think we can look into that. And I would say that like in budget numbers, that's not super significant. So if that's kind of people's response, that's kind of it's like not a big deal. There's other options too that we can talk about offline.
Okay.
That might be less
Sounds good.
legal. Any other thoughts people have? I know we have some newcomers if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Bob Pennell, Mount Ranch Vehicles Resources.
Amy Devo, in-house counsel for Tule. Nice to meet you both. And everybody else.
Thank you, welcome. Got a lot of lawyers in here, so we'll get a lot of good solutions.
Sorry, you addressed this earlier. There were some flyers that were available. Are these up here?
Yeah.
I think we're ready for lunch.
I mean, you got a little ways to go to lunch. We'll wait you out. Well, Ron, do you want to talk a bit about some of the cultural burn issues that you had brought up earlier?
Sure. Actually got a few issues.
You good there?
I can come up.
Okay, great.
Good morning again. On the name changes, I think one thing to keep in mind is that the order that came down from the secretary only pertains to federal lands. doesn't pertain to state or federal or private lands. And then the state is supposed to be working on something from that line. But I bring that up because, and it's really not we get the name changes, but where do we change it to? And so, you know, this is not my area, and that's where it's been changed now. It's, you know, Kenny's area over there, but I didn't know that it was Yokuch. I always thought it was Monoground. So it's kind of interesting, but it's up to the groups, you know, the people, to how that goes. But this so happens that politicians and others are so quick to want to make these changes instead of, it's been this name for decades, if not centuries, and now all of a sudden you want to change it in a couple of months, you know. So I think that's the thing that we need to all make sure we're trying to push back for, is, you know, let's take some time to get it right. So.
Do you mind if I say one thing and then I'll let you get back to it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do want to touch on, we're trying to do a task that should take decades in a very short amount of time. And so I encourage you all, like, where there's things that need more time, to say this specific thing needs more time even though we know it's an issue, because what happens with politicians, and especially electeds and appointeds, is that you have maybe, if you have one term, you have maybe 3 years to get anything done. You have 2 terms, you have maybe 6 years to get anything done. And so by the time you get to around 2025, you're a lame duck, you know, so there's someone coming in who's saying that you're doing everything wrong and nobody listens to you anymore. And I think everyone who's been a tribal elected official gets what I'm saying. And so I think the challenge here is getting all of those great recommendations in, locking them into some sort of thing that will last, and then making sure we have something that can carry out the recommendations once they're in. So, like, a perfect example, we know there's issues, these are issues, but we need more time to think about how we want to move forward, is a perfect way of kind of framing it. So I'll stop interrupting you.
Not a problem, because see, we've had this issue already for quite some time where the name got changed to the San Joaquin River Gorge, you know, from the Squaw, whatever it was. But Squaw Leap is still on the map, because Squaw Leap was on private property, not on BLM property. And so recently I made a change on the river, because working with PG&E, they had a section underneath the actual Squaw Leap, and it says the Squaw Leap called, not range, but it's a little section. So I said, hey, what are you doing, you know? That you have to change. The whole idea was to have the whole mountain part changed, but it wasn't on its own private property. So it never got changed. But hardly anybody knows that, because all they see is the San Joaquin River Gorge. So from BLM standpoint, that got changed. Anyway, just little tidbits of things there. A couple of real quick issues that I'd like to see us have some thoughts on. And I know from the mapping of homelands, I've encouraged every tribe to map their homelands. And even the federally recognized tribes should consider that as well. While federally recognized tribes are land-based tribes, and your Aboriginal groups have homelands, we have a major problem with NAGPRA. And so NAGPRA is for federally recognized tribes. But you come out here in the park, we have a problem right now with the Sequoia Park, where there's the remains that were found. But, you know, maybe they belong to the federally recognized tribe Tule here, and maybe not, but maybe it's a descendant. But that particular space is from some of the unrecognized tribes. That's their homeland. And so, you know, but yet they're not being dealt with because the park says we only deal with federally recognized tribes. And then, but that remains, isn't exactly, unless they can prove that it came from here. So that's a major issue that we've been trying to address. I know it's federal, and what has helped on a statewide is the NAGPRA, but that's only for basically the colleges and agencies, right? So it maybe go beyond that, but it's not the same as
Anyone who gets state
out on the federal
funding.
lands. What's that?
Anyone who gets state funding.
Okay, state funding, but still that doesn't apply to the federal lands. So that's why I'm just trying to bring it up, that those are big issues for us as the unacknowledged tribes and state recognized tribes with remains that are in our homeland. On that land acquisition back, one of the issues that we're encountering right now, and I was just on the 30/30 program yesterday listening, and I think you understand this, you've already made that statement, but right now, all lands that have been given back, there are no lands that have been given back to tribes. All the tribal lands that are land acquisitions are with land trust lands or conservancies. And so we're dealing with two lands that we are trying to get back right now. And one of them is in Mariposa and the other one's in down by the Seminole River. But working with the Department of Conservation, they would put the land back to us if we had a land trust. But the land trust is a nonprofit, 501c3. And we want the land back to us as a tribe. And so we're not wavering. But at the same time, what the DOC wants us to do is to sign a waiver of our sovereignty if they're going to work with us. So in other words, these agencies have never worked directly with tribes yet. So that's still being rolled out. And one of the key issues there is their grant funding. So they want it, why they want us to go into a conservancy or the land trust is so that their grant money and their strings are in perpetuity. We're telling them grant funds end in 1 year and or when the project is complete, and then you're done. And if the money comes to us, what we did with the money and how we spent the money to get the project completed, that's it. You don't get to have perpetuity and say that you're forever attached to us. And they're having a very difficult time with that. And this is all the agencies. So we're tried already 2 or 3 different agencies. And this is what they're struggling with, Sierra Nevada Conservancy or the Wildlife Conservation Board, and now DOC. I haven't tried CAL FIRE yet, but every one of these have that same issue because they have not actually given land back to tribes, and so they're really trying to get us to join some conservancy or create a land trust. And you tell them, no, we want the land back directly to us. So we'll see how that goes, but I just wanted to bring this up to you so that you have an understanding, because I have in my plans to go see the governor and sit down with him and try to say, do you understand what the agencies are doing? Because even like the 30/30 program, right? And I'm sure you understand it. I don't know if everybody here does. But right now, 75% of the 30/30 lands have already been garnered because they went out and recorded all the preserves that exist. And so the governor gave, what, $3.2 billion to all these agencies? And they only have to get 25% of those lands by 2030. So 7 years now they have $3.2 billion to spend. They're not in no hurry. You see what I'm saying? They're not in any hurry. Now on the coast, that's different. They've only gotten 18% of the coast. So there they have to go a lot more work, but not out here. So that's become very difficult for us as tribes then to try to get the land back directly to us. And then one of the things that we're doing with PG&E is we applied for lands through the Stewardship Council when PG&E was sued, but now basically the Stewardship Council is non-existent. Maybe it does, but it's not in form. And so one of our 80 acres of land that we applied for was under the FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the APE, the Area of Potential Effect. So it was a part of the first relicensing. So we were denied that 80. But now in this new relicensing, that APE got changed. And so that 80 is no longer under FERC relicensing. So we're going back after it. But again, my point being is that who do I go to? Do I go to CPU? Do I try to get something from the Stewardship Council that's non-existent? You know, anyway, that's just trying to bring it to you that there are these different issues that we've been faced with right now. Not last, but on the cultural burning aspect real quick, was that we've been working, we're probably one of the lead cultural burners in the state, the North Fork Mono Tribe. And not only have we restored about 15 different meadows, we've also been burning for about 20, 30 years. And one of the big things for us is that as cultural burners, we're not prescribed fire. So we don't use fire trucks, we don't use red cards, we don't use yellow suits, because we're cultural burners. And we've never had a fire escape on us. But now we have the opportunity for the claim fund. But in order to get in and get a claim fund, you have to have a fire plan. We actually have a fire plan. But the idea of what CAL FIRE is saying is that if you join, you can register to get the fund, but you have to be able to prove in court that you followed steps that became natural, not something that you caused. If you didn't follow those steps enough, you don't have a plan, right?
This is the liability.
Right, this is the liability. And so, I'm online with people like the Karuk tribe and Yurok tribe, and they don't want to do a plan. And there's many others that say they're not going to do it. Now, our tribe has actually developed a small plan and trying to make it generic enough that if others want to use it, that's fine. But that's one of the major issues because, see, as a tribe, we have $2 million coverage. And then as a family, we have $2 million coverage. But one escaped fire, and our entire insurance is gone. And so if we can get, the state to back us like they are the other fire folks, then it would be a whole lot more beneficial to us because we wouldn't be so scared about how we were going to lose our insurance or not. But one of the things that I have brought forth is nationwide. We, as burners, need to have coverage for fire. If the President, Congress, Department of Interior, the Governor, the state of California, if everybody wants resiliency and they're putting out millions and billions of dollars for resiliency, then where is our backup coverage on liability? Because, yeah, you're giving money for us to go out there and light a fire, but where's our backup? those are the real key things that we're faced with right now with cultural burning. And as we go around the state, we're doing a thing with the state where we're trying to go to every tribe and say, are you burning? I burned here with this tribe, right? And we restored 2 meadows with them and worked on some of their sequoia trees. So that's, we're right now, last year we did 7 burns, 3 in Mariposa, 2 in Sonoma, 1 in Dunlap, and 1 here in Tule. So we plan to do a lot more, and we're trying to get all 200 tribes in the state of California to be burning. But there's a major issue because they're going back in time. The grandparents still talk about how, there was a price tag on our head for burning. And they're not, just because the governor apologized doesn't necessarily mean that that's off the books. And so I get told quite often, you shouldn't be burning because you're going to get in trouble and the government's going to turn on you. And I say, well, that's a good possibility. But for now, no. Right now, where we're at is we're telling CAL FIRE, we're telling the counties, and we're telling air pollution what we're doing and how we're doing it. But that doesn't happen throughout the state. Throughout the state, as I travel around all the other tribes, whether it's Northern California, Southern California, any one of those 3 or 4 groups can put a stop to fire immediately. And we have people who are burning up in north and around Davis, and they might have 100 people show up. And they put out money and everything else for food and porta potties and everything they need. And then CAL FIRE walks up and says, today's a bad day, you can't burn. So you're done, Well, that doesn't happen with me. There's no bad days. They don't like that. But if I'm putting out $20,000 for 200 people to come and burn, I'm burning. The only way I'm not burning is if it's an extreme non-burn day, and I wouldn't be burning that day anyway, but not in the middle of the winter. You're not going to have that, unless it's blowing 50, 60 miles an hour. The point being is that these are the things that we are facing to try to get fire back on the land and to try to take care of our resources. And for you to understand that cultural burning, culture means to cultivate. And what we are doing is cultivating our resources for the culture of our people. So we have our basket makers out there. 12 basket makers are out there with us gathering. They are teaching kids, non-Indians, everybody how to make baskets, how to gather the sticks, how to clean the sticks. While we're burning, they're also telling us, well, man, we like that, we like those sticks, those are good. But what happened over there? Well, okay. Then we're gonna have to learn what happened over there. I think one of the key issues was right here when I was burning with Neil, is that not every land space has thick dirt. So we're working out on the meadow, and you would think automatically that you got plenty of dirt, but you don't. So we actually had to bring dirt in to mix with the ash to create a nutrient where there's going to be a return. And there's been times already, twice, that I know that we've put fire on the land and didn't have the soil that we needed to have for a return. So that's what the elders teach us. That's what the basket makers are teaching us. That's what the food sovereignty people are, the medicine people that are out there. This is what they're teaching us. So now we have to find out how to make that happen. But that's all about cultural burning, and that's what culture is about. And so I've worked on every one of these strategic plans trying to make sure that people understand that it's about bringing our culture back. And that's not just the baskets. When those basket makers are all sitting out there, they're singing and they're telling stories and, you know, they're laughing and they're all having a great time because they're enjoying their culture. And they have access to the plants, and they have good material, which they haven't had. And they're not getting shot at, and nobody's threatening them, you know. This is what we're after, and this is what we're after with the land back in Mariposa, because we've opened that land to anybody and everybody. The key's there by the gate. Just let me know when you're coming. But everybody comes together. We got tribes from all over coming together. Foods, sticks, medicines. You just want to come and camp, that's fine too, you know. But that's the whole point of getting the land back for your culture. We need to revitalize our culture, including our language, including our practices and our traditional ways. It's a whole package, but it's that whole package that we're not seeing yet, and what we're still struggling with. And I'll finish with this, that, you know, we're doing a lot of meadow restoration work, and that's very important for the watershed. I was the lead author for the 4th climate change for the state, for the tribes. We are not participating this time around, and I'll tell you why. And I told the people, it was a really, really hard year. I had 9 authors. The state agencies was the governor's office, energy, and natural resources. And each one of them tried to sabotage us. They stole information from one author to put over on another one because they thought that would work. Anything important that I wrote, they validated it. Even brought in people from Oklahoma. Oh yeah, that person, he says it was okay, so yeah, you can do that now. Or anything I said about the governor, like for instance, I don't know if you're aware of what makes a drought in the state of California. Farmers can claim drought in 1 year. It takes 2 years for the state to claim drought. So last year, the farmers screamed at Governor Newsom to make it a drought year, 2022. He couldn't make the whole state, so he made some districts like San Joaquin Valley. But in October, when the rain season ended, or the end of September, and starts a new one, then he was able to go back 2 years. So he went back to 2021, 21, 22, and then all of a sudden we were in 2023, right? And now in 2023, we have 17 inches more rain and 150% snowpack. So we're no longer in drought. But that extra time is the governor extending the drought. And that happened in 2009 and in 2016. And again, was happening now. So I brought that up in my report. Those 3 agencies took all that out and said, the North Fork Mona tribe says this. Not the fact that it was actually done. So this year, we just simply told them, no, we're not doing that. You have not addressed the issues we had in climate change. That has not been addressed. And now you want them to do the 5th climate change report? And they offered us what the governor put out, what did I say, $3.2 billion for climate change? They offered us $5,000. The first time around, it was free. I didn't get paid nothing. I had got put up with all that for 1 whole year. This time, they wanted to give me 5,000. I said, you know, I don't mind being slapped, but don't keep trying it. $5,000 when I know you've got billions and you don't want to do anything to help us, we're done with you. Until you start showing as a state that you're willing to come out here and help the tribes with their infrastructure, with their lands, with their climate resiliency, cultural burning, meadow restorations. Until you're able to do that, why should we work with you? Right? So I'm trying not to be real negative, but these are really important issues that we're faced with. And I appreciate the time that you've given me to speak. Thank you.
We really appreciate it, and really appreciate your bringing so much to this process when it's clear that you're not happy with a lot of the processes that are happening at the state. So that was not something we were aware of, and we'll look into it a bit more. Because I know when you say governor's office, you mean the governor's office of planning and research and not us. So we have a little bit of homework to do.
I know.
To make sure that they're doing right by you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Would anyone, yeah?
Thank you again for that. I did want to ask Dee Dominguez, I know that you had some testimony or you want to speak about the Kern River. Just wanted to make space for that.
And I'd also like folks to be thinking about, you know, and we can come back to, and we can highlight this again, and we can talk about it in consultation. You know, there's such a rich history to this reservation specifically, and the things that all of you went through, and places, you know, being removed from places like Yosemite, and then having to go to boarding schools in a lot of cases. And then even the more recent filling of Tulare Lake, which was insane, and was like, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna say I told you so. Because I actually flew over it, and the pilot was like, if you look to the left, that giant body of water is actually where, you know, this ancestral lake used to be. And the fact that everybody's just like freaking out right now when this is a normal thing for California has been pretty interesting. So I think just think about a little bit some of the things that are unique to this place as well. Dee?
Yes, my name is Dee Dominguez. I came from Bakersfield to speak about the Kern River. But first I'd like to say something that on the 10th of June of this year, it was the 173rd anniversary of Treaty D. At the southern end of the valley, it gave all of the Kern River as it came out of the canyon to the west side of the valley, included Kern Lake and Buena Vista Lake and part of the slough. If they had gone through with that Treaty D, all of the villages would still be there. We would all still be living there. But unfortunately, that treaty was reneged on, and it was never ratified as all of the treaties of California, all of the 18 treaties. So on June 10th of this year, this month, it was the 173rd anniversary. If that had gone through, it would have been a great thing. I also wanted to show a photo in this book of a woman named Sartonia Emeterio. Her husband was one of the signers of the Treaty D. She was from Buena Vista Lake, and her husband was from just where the canyon opens up on the river. And she was a very well-known basket weaver, and many of her baskets are in collection. And they're in this fantastic book that was given to me as a gift by the person who prepared it, Ellen Garfinkel. The Kern River at the southern end of the valley comes out of the canyon, goes all the way to the west end of the valley. It created two lakes, Kern Lake, and Buena Vista Lake. And it was a lifeblood of 4 tribes, the Alumni Yokets, who are the White Wood people, the Halamne, who were the people of Kern Lake, where there was sugarcane. Tulamni was the great Buena Vista Lake, where the people lived there. And as the river turned north at the west end of the valley, were the Tuhoe people. Kern Lake no longer exists. The water that fed that lake was taken away. It was then plowed under and became farmland. It still is farmland today. Buena Vista Lake, the very large lake, also does not exist. It was also created by the Kern River. There is a little bit of a section of a lake area that is now man-made, but it is on the lake bed itself. That water does not come from the Kern River. It comes from the California Aqueduct. As the water comes from the north, it comes through Bakersfield. It puts that water into that small section. It's called the Buena Vista Recreational Area. And around that lake bed, there are signs that says not to get into the water because the water is contaminated. And that is because it is not a freshwater lake. And also I want to say that in Kern Lake, it was a little lake, but there were 300-pound fish in there. So really it was not that little of a little lake, but it was a little lake in comparison to Buena Vista Lake. Today, before we had all the rains, all of the water is taken out of the river about a mile or 2 miles after it comes out of the canyon. And so the riverbed is dry. And it was not because there was a drought, because the water was always being taken out for many years. And so about 1.5 years ago, someone came and asked me if I was interested in joining a group of people that were trying to get the water back into the river and have the city and the county not take the water out of the river. And so I did join them. I told them, but I had to do it from a native perspective. That's the only way I could do that. And even though the riverbed was dry, the reason why it was dry is because all of the water is taken out by the city and the county and it is sold. There's no reason to have a dry riverbed. And so that water is either used for the city and the county's use, for the households and businesses, but it's also sold to the farmers and it's sold to the Los Angeles area, and it goes into a lot of it goes into the California Aqueduct. So in joining this group of people to face off with the state and the county and the city to leave the water in, but they were only asking that the water remain in the riverbed for 10 more miles. And that 10 miles only encompasses the areas that have homes in Bakersfield. Once it would reach the end of where those homes were at, it was an agreement that they would agree to have the water be taken out completely. So, but in my eyes, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I had a map that showed where all of the water is. And what I had explained, that this is a riverbed, it goes all the way to the end of the valley and then goes north, all the way to San Francisco Bay. And 2 lakes, Kern Lake and Buena Vista Lake. And so on the map, 10 miles is not even a 1/4 of an inch. And so I said, well, I will advocate with you that yes, I want 10 more miles, but I'm going to bring my map wherever I go and show this is what we are losing. This is what we have, but we're destroying it and continue to destroy as people. Recently, about 2 months ago, this same group finally did file a lawsuit with the Center for Biological Diversity, or their attorneys. And they based their criteria in attempting to restore actually just the 10 miles on the creek that I mentioned to the gentleman up north, of a creek that's there that was restored, that was under the same conditions as the Kern River, where all of the water was being taken out and there was a dry riverbed. And that was Puda Creek. That river, they sued and were able to restore that river. And so we're using the same basis for that. We don't know, the decision has not yet been made on that. So we're still waiting. However, we had all of this rain suddenly. And now, as you know, all of the rivers, like Tule River here, Kern River, and all of the other rivers up north, and Tulare Lake is being flooded. Well, it's not really being flooded, but there's water going to the lake where it's always supposed to do, right? And so Kern River does have water right now. And it's just fascinating, it's beautiful, but that's the way it's supposed to be. So, but really, it doesn't solve the problem yet. This is only one time it rained. And once the rain season goes back to normal somehow, we don't know what that's gonna be right now, because this has never happened. The city, in my eyes, the city and the county are going to say, well, we have more water to sell. What is going to prevent them from taking the water out? There's nothing that will prevent them from taking the water out. They will their concern is not to have water in the riverbed, but instead, what kind of monies can we bring in? Another thing that I have with the river is not only the fact that the water has been taken out, but the city and the county are now storing water. They're creating artificial means of storing water. Where the Buena Vista Lake and Kern Lake are located, their beds, underneath is a gigantic aquifer. But because of the waters were taken away from the Kern Lake and Buena Vista Lake, there's no longer any water trickling down to the aquifer. So now the farmers are taking the water out of the aquifer. And it has gone on for so long that the land is sinking. And a geologist has told me that it's more likely that if that continues, then that aquifer is not going to be able to be used because it is collapsing. So instead of, by taking the water away from the aquifer and the Buena Vista Lake and Kern Lake, the city and the county are now creating areas to store water, and also, and I don't quite understand this, is great big pipelines that go underground and they store the water in these big pipes. Well, that creates another problem for us as Native people, because where the river is at, it comes from the east side to the west side. Well, right in the middle of that river, there is a sacred site for a ceremonial ground that I describe as a cathedral in today's terms, because that is the site where the 4 tribes of the river would come together for all of their annual ceremonies. And because they are now, the city and the county are now making those artificial storage areas, that is where the grounds are still intact. And if they're going to be digging underground now, then they're going to be destroyed. Now, the ceremonial site is still intact. You can't see it from the top because it's covered with soil, but it is still underground, and you can still see all of the areas, the holes where all the poles would go as part of the site. And I pondered this. Okay, I did reach out to other Native people who have been able to get sites returned. Not necessarily to return in the name of the tribe, but they're actually have gone and opened, as this gentleman mentioned, conservancies or nonprofit organizations, and it goes under that title. So that is a major concern that I have, but not only to have that specific site saved, but to have the ability to go to that property, to go there and have our ceremonies. We have not been able to access that land for 100 years because it was considered a private land, and it has it's padlocked. Can't go on there. It's all fenced in. So that is what I wanted to present to you about the Kern River, not only about the water, the loss of 2 lakes, the danger that the riverbed itself is in because of the water that's being taken out, and also because of the sacred site that's on there. Everything else has been taken away from the river. All of the village sites are gone. All the cemeteries have been taken apart. And of course, there will be others that will still be found because there's more development that's going on now. But that one site, to me, that it cannot be destroyed because it's almost like a total erasure. We took the villages away, we took the cemeteries out, and here's the cathedral, and that's going to be taken away. And the same place where this major ceremonial site is at, it was also a major trading site where the people would come from the north and the south and the east and the west, because it's in the exact center of the valley where the river is at. I wanted to end with reading this article that in my research I found. And it was a historian who was doing some research, and he found some material that another researcher, ethnohistorian, had written. And it's about the Buena Vista Lake, and this was written in, this research was done in 1934. With such vivid pictures of the yogas brought to us by the ethnologists, it is not difficult to fancy the village on the sandspit as it was in the years gone by. It is almost impossible to see the long line of balsa boats drawn up on the beach, to smell the smoke of the many campfires, to hear the barking of the dogs, the chatter of the Indians at the lodges, the laughter at the game space, and the shouts of the children. Surely the notes of Stephen Powers, that nowhere else were there Indians more peaceable, more inoffensive, happier than those of California, more especially applicable to the yogas of Buena Vista Lake. Thank you.
Something you said reminded me of something that Ron said at a Yosemite law conference, where he said, you know, people think we're out of the drought every time it rains, but we've been in a 30-year drought. It's been drought since the 80s. And every time it rains, we get pulled in and out, but we need to still be thinking about how we manage the water. And then something that both of you said has me thinking about what it means to be revitalizing culture, what it means to be doing all these things, preserving our rivers. And it's really, what I'm hearing is that we're trying to rebuild community and joy in Indian country. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's like creating spaces for us all to just be happy together.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and share anything? You can make some jokes too if you want.
The day's going by quick. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Tule River, for hosting us and for this beautiful building. It always makes me proud to see my relatives and their accomplishments and everything that's, able to help us all prosper. So thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of give an update of where we were, and I know I talked earlier about us not being federally recognized. So once again, my name is Darlene Franco from the Wachumni tribe, and some people don't understand what that means and how that happened. And so, like for myself, my grandmother Beatrice was born here on Tule River, and she lived here for a while until her dad moved them off the reservation. And he did have a land assignment here at one time, but because of hard times and because his wife passed away, he was a widower. So how do you say it for a man? Yeah. anyway, he had 2 children that he had to support, so he moved off the reservation to find work. So his roots actually came from the Onyx area, Lake Isabella area, and he was born at the old Fort Tejon, and his people actually came from Owens Valley. So, you know, my relatives come from all over California. Came from Owens Valley to Fort Tejon. He lived in Onyx area, and then he moved over here to Tule River, and his wife was from Tule River, and then over by the Tulare Lake area, from Santa Rosa Rancheria area. And so they started their family here on Tule River. And so, anyway, that's because my grandfather moved his family off, you know, our ties here as far as being members here were severed at that time. And then on my grandpa's side, he was from the Drum Valley, Dunlap area in the foothills of Fresno County, used to be Tulare County. And so they didn't have a reservation there, but what they did was they were given land allotments. And so my family had land allotments there. But, and then so that was my grandfather's father and his family, my grandfather's mother, so Alex Wilcox's mother, Dinky Bacon Wilcox, she was actually from Isham Valley, where, you know, Ken's family is from. And he was just telling me, we're related. I know we're related. But anyway, and so from Isham Valley, and then from Drum Valley and Dunlap, and so we had these land allotments, but over the years, and you know, our people didn't really understand this ownership of land, because we didn't own land, we took care of the land. And so we were tied to the land because that's where we took care of it. And so, like, my grandpa used to hunt, and I remember sitting on his lap when I was a child, and he would tell me about all the places he would go hunt, and the places my grandma would gather. But then the land ownership by the colonizers or whatever came in, and then we weren't allowed to do that any longer. So it changed our life. And so we were given these land allotments, which were just trust land allotments. It still belonged to the federal government, but we had access to them. But over the years, we either lost them because my grandfather was swindled out of them, didn't understand what all that meant, or we do have one property now, our family does, which is landlocked, which means we can't get there unless we come in over a helicopter. So there's no actual access. So I'm gonna talk to Ken, because he was just telling me about some problems that they were able to overcome. So coming to meetings like this does help us to network, does help us to find out what other people are doing. I'm interested in what Ron's doing, and, you know, the cultural burning. And, you know, we've done a little bit of cultural burning in Visalia where I'm at, but not at the large scale that Ron has been doing. So, you know, helping each other is what I'm all about. Like you said, building community. And so those are the kind of things that we're doing in our area. But, so that's how we're not federally recognized. We're Native, we know our ways, you know, we practice our culture, we're basket weavers, and we, you know, we eat our traditional foods and things, but we're not recognized by the federal government. And so do we really need it? And so sometimes we don't need it to know who we are, but, you know, back in the day when I was playing softball with all the Hunter people, I was not federally recognized. So to play in an all-Indian tournament, you know, I didn't have the documentation for that. Our young kids that are going to college, they're not federally recognized, so they don't have access to the different kind of funding that could be available. And even selling beadwork or any kind of Native art. Technically, we can't really say it's Native art legally because we're not federally recognized. So there's reasons why or not. It's not about the money, it's about the recognition. So my ask of this commission really is to maybe get some kind of state recognition. You know, I do have a BIA number. I'm recognized by the federal government through my California.
CPRB.
Yeah, California Indian Degree of Blood. And when they had the judgment back in the 1970s, you know, I was part of that. But, you know, it doesn't really have a big purpose, not as a tribe. So anyway, so those are the kind of things that we're going through, but it doesn't stop us. It doesn't, we don't stop where we're at and just, you know, cry around about it. There's things for us to do. We still practice our culture. We still have our ceremonies. Through the friendships that my mom has made over the years, she was able to help us acquire some land, access to land. We don't own it, we don't really have, we can't really make decisions over it, but we do have access to have our ceremonies. We've been having sweat lodge ceremonies there for almost 40 years now. We have weddings there, funerals there. We have summer camps for our kids there. So we have access to some property, and recently we've become farming. So because of the pandemic of 2020, and you know, everybody was faced with this. There weren't food on the shelves we usually go to the grocery store. And so we said we needed to become serious about growing our own food. And so we started farming at the Quaker Oaks Farm, established Old Chumney Farms. So we started growing food. And then we started growing our own, taking care of our native plants again, because we weren't able to go out to where we gathered normally. You know, when I was little, when I'd go to my grandma to go gather basket materials, there were certain areas that she went to. We didn't have access to those areas anymore. So we had to start introducing those plants into the farm. So, you know, we have our river sage there, we have our white root there, we have our chuckish there, we have different native plants for our basketry and for our medicinals. We have a lot of cedar and different things growing there. So we have access to that. And so during that time, we were just growing our food. But we realized that there are people that do want to help us, you know. But the problem is you have to be nonprofit. If you're not a federally recognized tribe, you have to be nonprofit. So we formed a nonprofit, and we started receiving, you know, some funding to hire a farm manager, and then we were able to. We were working with a food bank, Food Link of Tulare County, so we're able to distribute food to our families and grow some food and have our people go out there. We had like 3-year-olds out there all the way up to 70 years old out there at the farm helping to grow food. So, you know, distributing that, and, you know, this all costs money, it all costs gas, so everybody just does this on their volunteer time as we can. And as we've grown and we've written other grants now, we have a grant from the Elevate Youth California, which is a prevention program funded by the cannabis tax, but it helps really to help our kids make better choices and prevention programs. So we have a youth program. During all this time, we also got a building in Visalia, which we shared with Olarasa and another linguistic operation in Visalia. So there were 5 organizations, and so with Chumney Tribe, we got an office. We're happy, you know, we had a room, we had an office, so we can keep our files and things there. The only problem is it was a really old building, owned by the school district, and so they wouldn't, they couldn't put any money into it because we weren't a school. So we soon discovered that there was no heating. So it was cold in the winter when our elders would come in. So we'd bring in, you know, electric heaters, and then there was no air conditioning. So we'd bring in all these fans and, you know, but if we brought in too many, it tripped the electricity all the time. So, you know, it was just one of those, but we had a building and we had a little area where we started a garden for the houseless people. We helped them, you know, have their own garden there. So they were all growing things, learning experiences. And then with the funding from the Elevate Youth California, we were able to get our own office. So now we have an office space, our kids are there, they're happy. We have started a summer youth program, and it's all geared towards using the GONA curriculum, the Gather of Native Americans. So the first week we did a lot of things about belonging, who we are, where we come from, our native ways, but also the city of Visalia. What's there to offer them? You know, we have a library that's free. You know, we have different sites downtown. We took them to the museum downtown. So they learned a lot about that. We have about 20 kids coming every day. And then the second week is about mastery, learning about your history and your culture. So we did a lot of that. And then we also spend 1 day a week at the farm. So the kids are able to gather their medicines. They were able to gather and wrap medicines, whether it be the white sage or the river sage. The cedar, they're able to dry out. They collected elderberry flowers to make teas later. They're waiting for the elderberries to get ripe so they can, you know, pick those also. But they also picked elderberry sticks, so they all made their clap sticks. So every day they introduce themselves in our Chumney language, practicing. So they introduce themselves, say who they are, say where they live, and then their next step is gonna be talk about their family, who their mom is, their grandmother, their great-grandmother, you know, like that, to do a more formal introduction in the Wukchumni language. And then they sing every day, so they're learning our songs. And and then at the end of that week, we took them to Avila Beach, but on the way, we stopped at the Avila farm so that they could go see a different kind of farm and petting animals and stuff like that. But also before that, we stopped at Tulare Lake, and we did explain to them what Tulare Lake was about, how it used to be before, and then why it stopped getting water because of the dams and because of the irrigations, the farming, the big ag, and explaining them that history because they're not going to learn that in school. And then also explaining how our people lived off that lake, you know, with the Tule boats and living on the, living there for weeks at a time and fishing and, you know, and I kind of put it into context with them, like, you know, you hear about people going on cruises. Well, these were our cruise lines, these Tule rafts, you know. We lived on the water and it was a good life. And so we took them there. We didn't let them get in the water though, because all that's agriculture land. So yeah, the water's there, but it's all polluted. You know, all the pesticides and everything that's been there, it's polluted. So it's wonderful to see the water there. And so we gave offerings, and because we've been teaching our kids, one of our 9-year-old girl, no, she's 10 years old, she was able to explain the Pa'ashu, the Tulare Lake song and what it means, because it talks about where are we gonna live now? Where are we gonna live? You know, our Pa'ashu, our big water, our Tulare Lake. So she was able to explain that, and then her brother, he's 11 years old, he was able to lead everybody singing that song. So these are the things that are more important to me. Yes, we're not federally recognized, but we have our future leaders that we're developing, and that they're gonna be able to continue on our history and continue on our way of life. And so, you know, this week then, what did we talk about? Oh, we were talking about our creations, and this is interdependence, how we work together with one another, and also our other, you know, close relatives and our animal relatives. So we did a lot of creation story, talking to them, and just teaching them about all that. But we also at the farm, we're developing a nursery of native plants so that we can help other people put their native plants back where they can have access to them. And because normally if you go dig whiteroot, it's hard for our basket weavers to find that, first of all, and if we do find it, sometimes it's in really hard ground, so it's hard to dig out. So if we were able to provide some plants to people, they can plant them in sandy areas where they can easily grow and have access to them. So we're starting a nursery, and people have been coming and actually giving us opportunities to apply for funding to do this. So also throughout this, I was able to leave my job at Fresno American Indian Health Center, and my daughter was able to leave her daughter. She'd been working for the Owens Valley Career Development Center, so we were able to leave our jobs to work full-time for our tribe. So that also has been a plus. I was saying this last week, summer solstice. Usually I take the day off from my job so that we can have celebrations, but I was able to work it, being with our family and being with our kids, celebrating summer solstice. So we had, I don't know, maybe 15 kids in the sweat lodge that day, the hottest day of the year, the longest day of the year, but it was good for them to be there. And some of them, their first time, they've never been there. So these are all the positive things that we try to take with what we're doing. So back in the 80s, we did start to the federal recognition process. We submitted our letter of intent and then started our petition. You know, people like Ron, and then the North Fork Mono, the Dunlap Mono, the Choinumnes. We all started that process. It was a lot of work, you know, and our elders at that time, they put together a constitution and bylaws and all these things. But it took a lot of time and energy and money, because they want you to pay a researcher to do your research for you. Even though you know who you are, they want a professional researcher to do this. So we kind of stopped that process because we had more important things to tend to, like our culture and our way of life and our families. So we're probably gonna pick it back up again at some point, but right now we can't wait for that to happen. And so maybe the state can help that happen in a better way. And I know you guys don't have any kind of jurisdiction of the federal government, but you know, the state can help in different ways. So, let me see, I'm trying to read my notes here. Yeah, so some of the things that we have noticed though, because we just jump in and start making things happen. After we started the program, we realized that transportation is an issue for our youth to get there. So, employees are going and picking up kids and bringing them in, or other families are picking each other up to go on field trips. It's always a hassle. So we buy gas cards for families to take, other kids with them. So as we go to these places, so we're looking for, transportation, or anybody has old vans maybe, or something that, that they are not using, we could use that. Also refrigeration, because we're gonna be working more closely with the food link of Tulare County, and so more food distribution as far as like meats and cheeses, kind of like what happens up here, the USDA truck comes in. Well, we don't have a big refrigerated truck like that, but something, and we're talking about servicing maybe like 75 families, and then of course land access, and everybody's always talking about land access. So like I said, we have a place where we can have our farm and our ceremonies, but we don't have control over that, so we're looking for somewhere where we can have land access to form our community again. We don't have a community like the reservation here. There's a lot of families that live together, community center, just a center like this. We would like to create something where at least we have a cultural center, a place, a gym, a place where our families could be together, housing, because housing is, crazy all over California, but especially for urban Indians who don't have a place to go. We have a lot of multi-generational families living together. So we're trying to create this community, at least for our elders at first, to have a place to be taken care of, to be watched over, and then a place for our youth to come together and continue these things that we're doing. And so we have been working, and I'm learning a lot about land access, like you say, these cultural easement, cultural conservancies, because people will come out of the woodwork to help you, but you have to look at it, is it really the best fit for you and your situation? And are you signing away something just so that they can say that they help the Indians, they help the Native people, but are they really giving you access to do what you need to do? Sometimes they're not. So you have to make those choices. And so the cultural easements, yes, if there's land that we can go and help take care of, we have to realize that that's what we're doing. We're just going to take care of the land, the property. We may be able to gather from there, but we're not going to be able to, okay, I need to build a building here. I need to put some housing. So a lot of times they don't want you to put any kind of housing. And that's a reality for us. We need housing. Our people need housing. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of learning, but it's been a journey. It's been quite a journey. And I'm very thankful for where we are right now. And and so part of the process is that I've been trying to create is a way so people can recreate what we're doing, especially the non-federally recognized people, because they always ask me, hey, how'd you do that? What are you doing that? And so I'm trying to create something so that people can kind of follow the process. One of the things that we did during COVID that a lot of people liked is that we got $15,000, and then they ended up getting me $18,000 through the California Fund, but we used that money to buy laptops, headsets, and wireless mouses for our elders so that they can keep contact with each other through Zoom, and we bought a Zoom password, a Zoom account, so they could keep contact, because during COVID, so many people had to stay home, they couldn't be around each other, it was just a scary time. So we set them up, and then my daughter went around and gave everybody lessons on how to access Zoom, how to use it, how to meet with people. And then, so it was really just to keep their communication open, because we also noticed that during meetings, a lot of our elders had their cell phones out on Zoom. They couldn't see it, they couldn't hear. So that's why we said we need to get them laptops, headsets, and something so they can see. So that was a successful project, and we were even able for some of them to hold classes. So beadwork classes, or I think she was making ribbon skirts on the Zoom. So we just had to get really creative of how we keep people healthy and assessing each other. And we're just the type of people that aren't bitter. We try not to be bitter about things, but try to move forward in the best way we can. So, you know, we're here. If anybody has any questions about what we've been doing, if we could help in any way, we would be willing to do that. But we also want to network with each other and help each other. If you have something that might help us, we would like the ability to do that also. So thank you.
Thank you. So one thing that you mentioned that was also discussed in another meeting we were at recently is the idea of outside partners coming to Indian country and saying, we're gonna help you, we're gonna do all of this for you, we're gonna be, you know, the best contractor, and then not necessarily having the best interests of Native people at heart. And so I think, you know, the context we were looking at it through was, you know, the fact that there's all these infrastructure dollars right now, and anywhere there's money in Indian country, the vultures start swarming. You see, you know, people selling tribes that are in the middle of the desert on giant, you know, cannabis industries where there's no water, and that's actually not feasible. And so, you know, I think something that we'll be thinking about as we think about recommendations is how do we, you know, create a culture and create frameworks and create regulations and laws that prevent that kind of extractive use of either like nativeness or also just kind of preying on Indian country generally when there's opportunity. One thing that you brought up, which we're hearing a bit more about as there's more kind of funding out in the conservation world, is because of the state's creating priority for projects that have tribal elements and tribal engagement. We have a lot more of that kind of conservancies approaching Indian country and saying, hey, we'd love for you to be a part of our project, but without it being actually like a Native project or for the benefit of Native people. So would love to hear more about that, and also, you know, this is something you can send us offline to if there are instances that you are seeing too, because the goal of those projects is long-term to benefit Indian country, rebuild capacity where it's been lost, with the ultimate goal of land back and land management by Indian country. Understanding that, you know, you may need to have kind of a waiting period while your workforce gets trained up, while people start getting back into, you know, building up the structures needed to sustain long-term, but really that it's not a like, the Conservancy works with you for 5 years, learns everything you know, and then is like, see ya, we're good. It should be the other way around. Any thoughts? Can be something completely different. We're at about 12:30.
I'd like to share a few things. I know I sit on the council, so I'm trying to listen and kind of taking notes, plus all you people that are elected officials know that our time's really never our own, so that department's things happening. Today's a holiday for the Tule tribe. We recognize the San Juan's Day holiday. A lot of our members will go dump themselves in the river early in the morning for tomorrow. I'd like to give the perspective from Tule River as a federally recognized tribe. This is a beautiful building. It is. We got a grant and we put some of our own funds in there. And the tribe had to make a decision on, our membership adopted a constitution in 1936 that said we shall have a court. What does that mean? Well, for me, that means the people made a decision, and it's the council's responsibility to fulfill that decision. It took 80-something years to get this court in place because of lack of funding, lack of cooperation from on the federal side. So being a federally recognized tribe isn't all it's cracked up to be. You see our road coming in, right? You had to come in single file. The tribe's sewer main runs down that road. It was completely ripped out during that flood on March 10th. And March 11th, the tribe declared a state of emergency. That road is still the way it is. So we still have single lane traffic coming through. We're taking our police officers, the guys in the gray, community service officers,
there that are normally here patrolling and providing services to the membership are there, watching that road, making sure nobody gets into an accident. We had a high-speed chase up here yesterday. For some reason, Tulare County, all the high-speed chases end here. And I think it's because you can actually get to the western divide over our eastern border. But we have a waiting list of families that's 500 families now that need homes. This last year, we've constructed 24 units on what's called Cow Mountain to the north here. You can see it when you're standing outside. It's a really steep road. They got a 19% grade, but it was approved by the BIA to go ahead and construct. If there's a fire up there, we can't even get our large fire truck up there because it's too steep. It'll get up there, but it's gonna have trouble getting down. And so we have housing issues here. The problems that we usually run into with the state and its political subdivisions is getting that land purchased and transferred and put into trust for housing. But because we're a gaming tribe, it's, well, you're gonna build a casino. No, we're not gonna build a casino. That's a whole separate process. It took 16 years for the tribe to get just the two-part determination approved to move the casino to where it's at now in the city of Porterville. Normally, those acquisitions take about 2 years. Well, in 2 years, our family list can grow, between 5 and 10 families that want to come home. They want to come back to the reservation. We have a Indian Reorganization Act constitution that has a residency requirement. So to be enrolled, because I know there was some discussion on enrollment, to be enrolled, one of your parents have to be living on the reservation at the time of your birth, where you can live. Yes, it's great to have families living together, but not when there's 5 families in a single family dwelling. That house doesn't last as long as it should. We have the HUD program, but that doesn't quite work. We're grateful that we're able to apply for the REAP 2.0 funds. So we bought some land. You've probably seen some ball fields on your way up. They're kind of thrashed right now, but we're working on that. That's going to be a housing project. So that's going to be the next housing project for the tribe, and we're partnering with the state, and we applied for some of that funding and some other funding to build 54 units there. That'll take a little dent out of that need that Tule River has. But a lot of times we run into issues with just trying to get the land transferred over. Well, you're taking it off the tax rolls, you need to pay us money in lieu of taxes. And we're like, well, for me, just speaking as a member of the Tule River tribe, is why are we as tribes always having to give up tangible things? It's either money or the ability to govern ourselves, and all we get in return is some ink on a document that says you can go ahead and do what you want to do on your own land. That's always been an issue for me. We talk about water. We have a drought and we run out of water here every year. Some part of our reservation. Last year is Apple Valley. There were 18 homes on the Apple Valley area of the reservation that actually ran out of water. They had no water. The state came in and assisted us with some drinking water, but that's all it could be used for. It couldn't be used for cooking. It couldn't be used for other things. Those were the specific instructions from the state. The BIA came in, some sister tribes came in and assisted us. We're grateful for all the help. But getting that long-term fix is, it's going to take a congressional act, a bill. And we have a bill in place now. We've met with the downstream users. In 1922, the people that were supposed to be protecting our rights gave our rights away to the downstream users, who were, people, landowners in the state, and in perpetuity. So I can take this cup outside to the river and fill it up, and I can drink that, but I can't hold anything back when there is no water. In 2017, the South Fork Tule River went dry all the way up past our administration building, past almost up to the Painted Rock area. And that's the first time that ever happened in my lifetime. And we had no water. 60% of the tribe's drinking water for the membership here comes from that river. Yet we're always fighting, trying to get that. We go to the state asking for, we need some assistance here, and they listen, but again, the state's a bureaucracy just like any other government, and it takes a long time. But in the meantime, it's our people that have to suffer. It's our people that have to go without. And it's difficult sometimes as a leader to look at my elders and, man, I failed you. We're trying. we're not gonna quit, but, you know, it's hard. Sometimes it feels like you're being attacked from all sides. Membership's mad at you because it's not moving fast enough. The state's mad at you because they don't want to give you anything, right? And then the feds are like, well, you know, you got your reservation, you got your gaming compact, you got your grants and stuff, so, you know, it's on you. So we do the best we can, and I'm grateful for my elders that have brought us this far. All the things that they had to go through to get us to where we are. Like I said, this is a beautiful building. Nobody likes to come here. This isn't a good place to be unless it's a meeting like this. But you know, but that's what our people decided. And moving forward, at least for us in meeting with the state, it is a public law 280 state, but the tribe actively uses its concurrent jurisdiction on tribal lands. We have a jail downstairs. We can't call it a jail technically because we're a tribe. I don't know why, but there's something that says you can't call it a jail. They've got to be called hard rooms. It can't be a jail cell. So there are hard rooms downstairs where we will be detaining people moving forward. And if they are a non-member or a non-Native American, well, we're going to detain them too, but we're only detaining them. They're not under arrest. We're going to hold them for whichever jurisdiction they belong to. If it's something on the roads, that's going to be the CHP, at least here in Tulare County, and if it's something else, it'll be the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. We already met with the sheriff and let them know that. But those are the kind of partnerships we're going to be looking for with the state, and I know there's going to be heated debates over those issues. One is access to CLETs. I have federal officers, federal sanctioned officers on our police force that don't have access. We have the parole department paroling non-native pedophiles to our reservation without even contacting the tribe. We sent a letter to the Department of Corrections. We've sent letters to other places because that's happening on our reservation. And the only way we find out is one of our members is doing that search you can do online under Megan's law and say, hey, you know, did you guys know this guy's here? It's like, no, we'll take care of it. So those types of things, communications, giving the tribe that respect as a sovereign government. We may be a domestic dependent nation under the United States because we don't have a military, but that wasn't our fault. That was taken from us. You know, our lands were, like other lands, invaded. And, you know, we were, for the most part, a peaceful people, and we probably fought amongst ourselves for the best place to gather acorns or other things like that, but, you know, every society has its issues. I was a little reluctant to sit on this council when it was first talked about, when I was nominated. You know, I think Bob was there. I wasn't there when I got nominated. But thinking about it, it's like, no, this is a good platform to have our voices heard, as long as we're going to do something with that at the end. We have a lot of plans, and Heather hears me say that all the time. We have a lot of plans that they look good on the shelf, but we're not really doing them. We have a $600,000 hotel design, you know, elders expansion building, but it gets hard. And I applaud all of you that have stepped up, that want to be leaders of your people, because it takes a personal toll. You're never home, you're always gone. You know, you miss birthdays, you miss other things. But I know moving forward, at least in Tule River's case, we've been improving those relationships with the county and the city of Porterville and the state. And a lot of times I sit back and think, well, what am I doing as an elected official for my tribe to improve our situation? So we're reevaluating everything here on the reservation. A lot of the things you're talking about providing a place on tribal fee land, right? So this is county jurisdiction, concurrent jurisdiction land, is providing those places where people can go gather, where Native people can go do this. We're working on a co-stewardship agreement with the USDA, the Forest Service, and we want to be that tribe, federally recognized tribe there for the non-federally recognized tribe to use to talk to them about having access to that 328,000 acres of land that borders our eastern border. So that access is there, and we'll be sending out invitations soon. So if we can, we'll get copies of these and we can send that out. But again, it's just having the respect for our respective governments from the state and its political subdivisions that is often lacking. You know, not just parole, not just, you know, law enforcement, but, you know, EMS services. We had, it can take up to 1 hour and 45 minutes to get a medical or a law enforcement response to the reservation, depending on where those services are in the county, because the county's so large. The tribe pays for its own ambulance, but if you're a non-member, our ambulance can stabilize you, but we gotta stop at our border and wait for the county contracted ambulance to come get you, so don't sue us, that's not our fault, that's the county's. If you're a member of the tribe or another Native American, then we're gonna transport you all the way to the hospital. But those are the issues that we're having, is just getting that respect for our government. We are a government, we are elected by our people, we are sanctioned by the Congress of the United States. I have these talks with our departments when the council passes an ordinance or a resolution saying, well, why do we gotta do this, or why do we gotta do that? And I'm like, well, you know, if the state came down and said, here, this is a new law, goes in effect this day, you're gonna jump all over it. You're gonna say, okay, well, we gotta do this. When the United States passes a law or puts something out there, you're gonna say, oh yeah, no, we gotta do this. Then why doesn't our own tribal government get that same respect? That's a frustrating part for me, and that's just at home sometimes, and we see it out there. But I notice as I get older, I start to ramble, and but those are some of the things. So yes, we are federally recognized. Yes, we have a beautiful home, but you got to remember, this is the land that we wanted. You know, we were placed here basically to die. In 1873, January 9th, we turned 150 years old this year, by the way, on this particular reservation. There's only about 250 acres that's semi-flat and semi-good for farming. So in October, I'm sure I made left, but in October 17th, they expanded the reservation to the Middle Fork, so 92,000 acres or more acres, because we needed more land to sustain ourselves and not leave the reservation, right? I know that they discovered gold on our northern border, where our current border is now, and the people are still mining it now, even though everybody denies it, but the family that's mining that actually came to the reservation asking if they could be test bores on our side, but we lost that. And it's because, you know, people within the state petitioned Congress saying they don't need that. Even with our water, it was the Indians are wasteful. In 1922, elders, I don't think we had running water to homes, so I don't know how we were being wasteful, but that's actually in the document, that the Indians were being wasteful. And that was taken away from us. We've been fighting that it's been 100 years last year. So 101 years we've been trying to get that restored. But I don't like being between people and lunch, and I'm sure it's getting set up, it's gonna be out there in the lobby. And again, please feel free to engage. Get it off, it feels better, you'll feel better. You will, I know I'll feel better. Didn't feel too good a while ago, but I feel better now, just getting it out. So I think that healing process has to start here with each one of us, and being able to stand up and say, we were mistreated. How do we fix it? You took our land, you took our people, you know, you took our children, you took our culture, you took our language. There's probably, I don't know, 15, 16 bands of Yokuts up here. We're down to one dialect. And we're down to the Yolumni dialect here on our own reservation. This is our third home. We started off on the Sebastian Reservation near Fort Tejon, and we moved to the Tule River Farm in East Porterville, and then we were moved here. You know, some of our families in 1879 were the last families brought up here at gunpoint. You go in or you're gonna get shot, you know, because we weren't allowed near the city of Porterville. You know, no Indians within the city limits after sunset. But thank you for hearing me. I feel a little better. Hope you enjoy your lunch.
Would anyone else like to share anything? And also, do you know how common it is to have residency requirements in IRA constitutions?
I don't know how common it is. I know it was all boilerplate, so each tribe kind of went through and said, nah, yep, no, So it's kind of, back then, the real cut and paste.
Yeah.
So ours has a residency clause, and the only ones that can change that is our actual membership, which is a secretary of election.
Which is ridiculous and impossible. Yep.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Julian. Just want to say thank you to all the presenters today and speakers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your words. A lot of people don't realize that the people that are here today, they're really strong members of the communities that are not just their own community. Other tribes, other organizations, other foundations, and just other community members look to a lot of the people that are in this room. You know, Tule River has always been a friend to a lot of us throughout that are not Yokuts and that are not from this area. And so I just again want to say thank you to that. And going into what I wanted to speak on is one of the things that I think that we can do too as far as the statewide goes is getting better outreach and having more appointed officials that we can have, say for example, the state parks. You know, we have about 280 of them. Well, you know, I'm not sure 100% if there is a advisory committee that's native-based that can kind of talk onto, you know, who are the tribal people of that land, who are the tribal people that are calling it home now. You know, because those are things too that sometimes we forget. My tribe calls Bakersfield home. We were some of the first families there, but we were not the traditional people that were there since day one. Our families come from the Pinnacles National Park area where we still have our ceremonies and we still do a lot of our things. But throughout the migration periods, throughout the workforce periods, throughout everything that took place here in California, just like everybody else, we got placed in different areas. And then you go to somewhere and you fall in love, or you just have lust and you have children here and there. I always tell everybody, we're like cockroaches and rabbits. We're under every rock and you can't get rid of us. And you know, doing things like this though is helpful. I like to joke because as Indian people, that helps us to cope. That helps us to understand things. And sometimes being in areas, it is kind of like an unsavory taste in your mouth of like, man, we're gonna speak on this. So I know a lot of my tribal council fellow members wanted to be here today, but they did have other obligations that they were needed at. It's not to say that this wasn't important. This is really important. We haven't been able to come to this yet, but I am going to go back and report on it. And hopefully we can also travel throughout the state with you guys from time to time to be able to be represented there. And to be able to have that voice, to be able to talk is really big because we too are unfederally recognized. Even though we're working close with the national parks, we're actually going to get some of our language and a thing put onto the sign here in September. And it's the first time that the parks are going to have something that actually documented other than what they put on there. This is something that the tribe has been closely working with them, with the superintendents, and it's going to be a big thing for us. And we're all closely related. A lot of us talk about some of the borders of, you know, the Yokuts, the Mono, the Miwoks, the Ohlone people. You know, we were the most southern tribe, so we have words that are similar. Our word for friend is Nochi. I know some of the Yokuts people are Nochis as well. So it's those things that tie us all together. And I know I kind of ramble too sometimes, but going back to the parks thing, I think it'd be really important though to have an advisory committee, maybe in even each, if we can't do each county, in you know each region, have something that we can have representatives that are both non-federally recognized tribal members, members that from native organizations, because that can help lead some of the stewardships to say, okay, let's designate if this is a 180-acre state park or whatever it is, you know, maybe there's a couple of acres set aside for, you know, food sovereignty programs for the native communities, ceremonial practices to where they can actually go out there. I know Kern County, we have Hart Park out there. However, we can't just go out there and practice ceremony without having somebody question, or people, of course, pull it out their phones and say, look at Indians are getting crazy again out here. And a lot of those areas were our natural, you know, habitation areas too, where we went and gathered different materials. Again, not being 100% from day one there, but my people have been there for a long time. We go out there and gather. I still go out there and do my offerings to the Kern River. I go out there and I do check on certain areas that we go and gather. And we also at the same time respect all the people that were there before us. We respect people's gathering sites. I know that a lot of times tribes may have their own internal things. I know about some of the massacres that took place and how some tribes got together and try to, you know, slow down another tribe. But that's just part of humanity. You know, even within our own families, we cannot say that in our own family, we don't have turmoil, craziness, and trust issues. However, we still love them, we still build with them, and we still work with them. So something like this is really important, and I'm so glad to be able to be here today between my work. I didn't mention that earlier, but I'm also the elders director for CACHI, Santa Rosa Rancheria. And I'm not here officially for them, I'm just throwing that out there because I do want to network with some of you guys that are in here today, because I did take down a bunch of notes, and I'm hoping to also go back and, you know, talk to them too about that, because I know that they would probably love to be here as well and to get more involved. So, again, thank you.
And we love those ideas, and then also thinking about how do we create, you know, assuming we have kind of a native position or advisory council, how do we create a culture that is supportive of that? Because we've seen a lot of times, we've increased the number of California Native appointees in this administration, but a lot of times people just get burnt out because they're constantly fighting against a culture that is not supportive and that doesn't understand that, like, when you do this work, you're bringing your entire identity, yourself, everything, and it's really challenging. So thinking about that. And then one thing you mentioned about community members wanting to engage but not being able to come. We are like, and I know I say this every time, but we are like 99% to the point of having our iPad lending library. So if there are community members who want to submit testimony or want to submit oral histories, we will lend out those iPads, give you kind of directions on how to do it. So you can do it on your own time, or we can come down and record those testimonies and those thoughts as well. One other thing, just so you can kind of understand what those subcommittees will look like in July, is we'll have before the actual meeting a space where we get around kind of tables with all the subcommittees, and everyone can just kind of talk about some of the questions that we have for each of the subcommittees. So you'll have time to visit with each other, think through what you want want your involvement to be. And network, and what is the elder story? How do you want to present it? All of that, and that'll be different subcommittees as well. We're at about time, and my stomach is grumbling, so I'm going to prioritize my stomach. But do we want to have a closing blessing? Would you like to do a closing blessing for us?
Are we done with this? Besides
I think so.
Besides eating?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You have to be sure now.
And I'm going to stop recording.
I'm going to go.